I want to ask about the Green Fuel Forward initiative and what it's actually meant for GenZero and its attempts to foster aviation fuel as a more adoptable and more acceptable source of fuel for the airline sector.
Thank you. So GenZero's mission is to actually invest into solutions that can help with decarbonization globally. Sustainable aviation fuel is a very important part of decarbonizing aviation, not the only one. We can have more efficient routing, we can have more efficient engines and so on forth that is more fuel efficient, but the fuel part of it is going to be absolutely important. But the main problem with adopting sustainable aviation fuel at scale right now is that it's very expensive. So it's typically 2 to 3 times more expensive than conventional fuel. So the question really is, how do we get the pricing down? So the Green Fuel Forward initiative is a way of getting corporates to actually purchase SAF credits as a way of addressing some of their air travel emissions. Not everything because it's terribly expensive, but at least make a start. Maybe a 1%, 3% or 5% commitment in order to be able to do this. Now, by purchasing SAF credits to the order of about something like $350, maybe $500 per ton of carbon, that will provide a bit of a subsidy to the cost of the SAF. So when airlines buy it together with corporates actually purchasing the SAF credits, airlines will probably get something like a $1,000 discount to the cost of the SAF.
Right, but it sounds like you need a credit market and a functioning credit market to foster this. Where are you right now with regards to a functioning credit market to make sure that these SAF credits are indeed do indeed work the way in the event you want to?
SAF credits are not totally new. So Boeing has been purchasing SAF credits for quite some time. Boeing is one of the members of our GFF initiative, Green Fuel Forward initiative. We also did a pilot in Singapore some years ago together with Singapore Airlines and Changi Airport and the Civil Aviation Authority and others to be able to tank up SAF and also produce SAF credits to be able to sell to corporates. So today these things are available on many of the exchanges, including, for example, the Climate Impact Exchange here in Singapore.
Right. Now there is a target to try to get airlines to adopt, correct me if I'm wrong, 1 or 5% of sustainable aviation fuel into their mix. But as you mentioned, it's very expensive at the moment. There is a need to bring down the cost. We've seen in other green technologies that we've seen the cost of these things, like solar panels, come down over the course of 10 years. Yes. What is the trajectory, do you think, right now, based on what you're seeing with sustainable aviation fuel? How soon do we start to see that cost come down based on the technology and the innovations we've seen come over the last couple of years?
No, I think one way of thinking about bringing the cost down is not just necessarily about a ton-for-ton comparison, because clearly the production methods for sustainable aviation fuel would require a lot more factors of inputs, like you need to have waste materials, you need to have energy and so on, as compared to just drilling it out of the ground and then after that just refining it. So it will always be somewhat a little bit more expensive for most pathways to produce SAF. But overall, it could be cheaper if, for example, new synthetic fuels are more efficient. For example, per ton of fuel, it has more energetic value. If, for example, the new fuels have a lower freezing point that allow planes to fly higher and therefore be more efficient and use less fuel per kilometer or per mile traveled. So these are ways that we can actually contain costs and make this much more cost effective rather than focus on a ton-for-ton comparison.